My Melanin. So this video is not really going to be about me teaching you something, but is going to be me showing the world something. Tolkien and I have a lot in common. We were both born to see the potential in others. And that is why I really connect to Tolkien. He saw the potential in mankind that they had before the fall of grace. And you can take that in any way you want. You can see it as just a made-up story, or you can see it as a deep, profound example of our reality and what is this type of story that is unfolding for each soul to realize about themselves and to walk back up that ladder into the lands of bliss and peace with themselves and with the whole collective of God. The movement that is going on called metoo is something that I feel is an example for what is going on in our world, where truth is being pushed to the surface and being revealed in order to heal. Some people choose to see this as a negative thing, that this is just a feminist movement, and it's not. It really is to bring to surface some real deep-seated issues within society that we can change. Whether it be I'm a futuristic soul, whether it be a soul that I'm just awakened, I know that humanity can achieve much greater things than they have in the past. Spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, they can really truly become the versions of themselves that they imagine in stories and in legends. I know that it can exist. And someone else knew too. So I'm going to read you a passage about men and women and how he saw the relationships between the two. I think it's really important to talk about because, Tolkien is one of those writers that was seen as very idealistic in his versions of reality. And when I read this passage, I saw that he actually was disheartened by what he saw in society. This whole thing about women being assaulted, molested, and raped is not something that is just coming out of the woodworks now. It has been part of the old world for a very long time. And Tolkien wrote about it. And I found that this was so liberating for me in my own experiences of being assaulted and molested by men that I thought were my friends. I thought that they cared about me, and instead they just passed me around like I was worth nothing. And what that does to a woman is it doesn't allow them to feel desired. Because every woman wants to know that they're desired for their soul and their mind and the things that they can give to a man that is not sexual, not physical. We want to know that people desire our elven light inside our heart. So I'm going to read you this in order to show you that this is a situation that has been existing for a very long time, and Tolkien knew about it. And so he wrote all his love stories, all his relationships between men and women in his books were an idealized version of our potential, of what we each can have as masculine and feminine energy in this world, and how we can enjoy the experience together more by coming together rather than looking at each other as competition or something to dominate and to take over. So here it is, from a letter from Tolkien in March 6th through 8th, 1941, on the subject of marriage and relations between the sexes. A man's dealing with women can be purely physical. They cannot really, of course, but I mean he can refuse to take other things into account, to the great damage of his soul and body and theirs. Or friendly, or he can be a lover, engaging and blending all his affections and powers of mind and body in a complex emotion, powerfully colored and energized by sex. This is a fallen world. This dislocation of the sex instinct is one of the chief symptoms of the fall. The world has been going to the bad all down the ages. The various social forms shift, and each new mode has its special dangers. But the hard spirit of concupiscence has walked down every street and sat leering in every house since Adam fell. We will leave aside the immoral results. These you desire not to be dragged into. To renunciation you have no call. Friendship, then? In this fallen world, the friendship that should be possible between all human beings is virtually impossible between man and woman. The devil is endlessly ingenious, and sex is his favorite subject. He is as good every bit at catching you through generous romantic or tender motives as through baser or more animal ones. This friendship has often been tried. One side or the other nearly always fails. Later in life, when sex cools down, it may be possible. It may happen between saints. To ordinary folk, it can only rarely occur. Two minds that have really a primarily mental and spiritual affinity may be accident, reside in a male and female body, and yet may desire and achieve a friendship quite independent of sex. But no one can count on it. The other partner will let him or her down, almost certainly by falling in love. But a young man does not really, as a rule, want friendship, even if he says he does. There are plenty of young men, as a rule. He wants love, innocent, and yet irresponsible perhaps. Alas, alas, that ever love was thine, as Chaucer says. Then if he is a Christian and is aware that there is such a thing as sin, he wants to know what to do about it. There is in our Western culture the romantic, chivalrous tradition still strong, though as a product of Christendom, yet by no means the same as Christian ethics. The times are inimical to it. It idealizes love, and as far as it goes can be very good, since it takes it far more than physical pleasure, and enjoins it, not purity, at least fidelity, and so self-denial, service, courtesy, honor, and courage. Its weakness is, of course, that it began as an artificial courtly game, a way of enjoying the love for its own sake without reference to, and indeed contrary to, matrimony. Its center was not God, but imaginary deities, love, and the lady. It still tends to make the lady a kind of guiding star, or divinity, of the old-fashioned, his divinity, the woman he loves. The object or reason of noble conduct. This is, of course, false, and at best make-believe. The woman is another fallen human being with a soul in peril, but combined and harmonized with religion, as long ago it was, producing much of that beautiful devotion to Our Lady that has been God's way of refining so much our gross manly natures and emotions, and also of warming and coloring our hard, bitter religion. It can be very noble. Then it produces what I suppose is still felt among those who retain even vestigiary Christianity to be the highest ideal of love between man and woman. Yet I still think it has dangers. It is not wholly true, and it is not perfectly theocentric. It takes, or at any rate has in the past taken, the young man's eye off women as they are, as companions in shipwreck, not guiding stars. One result is for observation of the actual to make the young man turn cynical, to forget their desires, needs, and temptations. It inoculates exaggerated notions of true love as a fire from without, a permanent exaltation, unrelated to age, childbearing, and plain life, and unrelated to will and purpose. One result of that is to make young folk look for a love that will keep them always nice and warm in a cold world, without any effort of theirs, and the incurably romantic go on looking even in the squalor of the divorce courts. Women really have not much part in all of this, though they may use the language of romantic love, since it is so entwined in all our idioms. The sexual impulses makes women, naturally when unspoiled, more unselfish, very sympathetic and understanding, or specially desirous of being so, or seeming so, and very ready to enter into all of the interests, as far as they can, from ties to religion of the young man they are attracted to, and no intent necessarily to deceive, sheer instinct, the servient, help-meet instinct, generously warmed by desire and young blood. Under this impulse they can in fact often achieve very remarkable insight and understanding, even of things otherwise outside their natural range, for it is their gift to be receptive, stimulated, fertilized in many other matters than just the physical, by the male. Every teacher knows that. How quickly an intelligent woman can be taught, grasp his ideas, see his point, and how, with rare exceptions, they can go no further when they leave his hand, or when they cease to take a personal interest in him. But that is their natural avenue to love. Before the young woman knows where she is, and while the romantic young man, when he exists, is still sighing, she may actually fall in love, which for her, an unspoiled, natural young woman, means that she wants to become the mother of the young man's children, even if that desire is by no means clear to her or explicit. And then things are going to happen, and they may be very painful and harmful if things go wrong, particularly if the young man only wanted a temporary guiding star and divinity until he hitches his wagon to a brighter one, and was merely enjoying the flattery of sympathy nicely seasoned with a titillation of sex, all quite innocent, of course, and worlds away from seduction. You may meet in life, as in literature, women who are flighty or even plain wanton. I don't refer to more flirtatiousness, the sparring practice for the real combat, but to women who are too silly to take even love seriously, or are actually so depraved as to enjoy conquests, or even enjoy the giving of pain. But these are abnormalities. Even through false teaching, bad upbringing, and corrupt fashions may encourage them, much though modern conditions have changed feminine circumstances. And the detail of what is considered proprietary, they have not changed natural instinct. A man has a life work, a career, and male friends, all of which could, and do where he has any guts, survive the shipwreck of love. A young woman, even one economically independent, as they say now, it usually really means economic, subservient to male commercial employers instead of to a father or a family, begins to think of the bottom drawer and dream of a house almost at once. If she really falls in love, the shipwreck may really end on the rocks. Anyway, women are in general much less romantic and more practical. Don't be misled by the fact that they are more sentimental in words, freer with darling and all that. They do not want a guiding star. They may idealize a plain young man into a hero, but they don't really need any such glamour either to fall in love or to remain in it. If they have any delusion, it is that they can reform men. They will take a rodder-opened eye, and even when the delusion of reforming him fails, go on loving him. They are, of course, much more realistic about the sexual relation. Unless perverted by bad contemporary fashions, they do not as a rule talk bawdy, not because they are purer than men, they are not, but because they don't find it funny. I have known those who pretended to, but it is a pretense. It may be intriguing, interesting, absorbing, even a great deal too absorbing to them, but it is just plain natural, a serious, obvious interest. Where is the joke? They have, of course, still to be more careful in sexual relations for all the contraceptives. Mistakes are damaging, physically and socially, but they are instinctively, when uncorrupt, monogamous. Men are not. No good pretending. Men just aren't, not by their animal nature. Monogamy is for us men a piece of revealed ethics, according to faith and not to flesh. Each of us could healthily beget in our 30-odd years a full manhood, a few hundred children, and enjoy the process. Brigham Young, I believe, was a healthy and wealthy man. It is a fallen world, and there is no consonance between our bodies, minds, and souls. However, the essence of a fallen world is that the best cannot be attained by free enjoyment or by what is called self-realization, which is usually a nice name for self-indulgence, wholly inimical to the realization of our other selves, but by denial, by suffering. Faithfulness in Christian marriage entails this great mortification. For a Christian man, there is no escape. Marriage may help to sanctify and direct to its proper object his sexual desires. Its grace may help him in the struggle, but the struggle remains. It will not satisfy him, as hunger may be kept off by regular meals. It will offer as many difficulties to the purity proper to that state, as it provides easements. No man, however truly he loved his betrothed and bride as a young man, has lived faithful to her as a wife in mind and body without deliberate, conscious exercise of the will, without self-denial. Too few are told that even those brought up in the church, those outside seem seldom to have heard it. When the glamour wears off or merely works a bit thin, they think they have made a mistake, and that the real soulmate is still to find. The real soulmate too often proves to be the next sexually attractive person that comes along. Well, someone whom they might indeed very profitably have married, if only. Hence divorce, to provide the if only. And of course they are as a right rule right. They did make a mistake. Only a very wise man at the end of his life could make a sound judgment concerning whom amongst the total possible chances he must profitably to have married. Nearly all marriages, even happy ones, are mistakes in the sense that they almost certainly, in a more perfect world, or even with a little more care in this very imperfect one, both partners might have found more suitable mates. But the real soulmate is the one you are actually married to. You really do very little choosing. Life and circumstances do most of it. Though if there is a God, there must be His instruments or His appearances. It is notorious that in fact happy marriages are more common where the choosing by the young person is even more limited by parental or family authority, as long as there is social ethic or plain unromantic responsibility and conjugal fidelity. But even in countries where the romantic tradition has so far affected social arrangements as to make people believe that the choosing of a mate is solely the concern of the young, only the rarest good fortune brings together the man and the woman who are really, as it was, destined for one another, and capable of a very great and splendid love. The ideal still dazzles us, catches us by the throat. Poems and stories and multitudes have been written on the theme, more probably than the total of such loves in real life. Yet the greatest of these tales do not tell of the happy marriage of such great lovers, but of their tragic separation, as if even the sphere of the truly great and splendid in this fallen world is more nearly achieved by failure and suffering. In such great inevitable love, often love at first sight, we catch a vision, I suppose, of marriage as it should have been in an unfallen world. In this fallen world, we have as our only guides prudence, wisdom, a clean heart, and fidelity of will. Powerful words from him. I believe that was in 1941. I believe that Tolkien's vision of a world not fallen is yet to come. And we are all rising together. And that is really what the consciousness shift is all about. Men, we need you. You are an intricate part of this collective. And like a puzzle piece, men and women fit together. Self-realization of the entire human soul cannot be realized until we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine come together in balance. And what that actually means is to see each other as equal and to respect each other as such. To not think that you can get something from another just to please you, but to actually look and see what is deep behind the opposite sex that you find intriguing, that in some way completes you and brings forth that twin flame energy that people are seeking today in this world. This is what it's really about. Tolkien wrote that in 1941, and it goes to show that this is something that has been occurring for a long time. And it is time now, as awakening souls and beings, to change this. To no longer be a fallen world, but to be a lifted one. One that is raised in consciousness and awareness of what we do to each other. This is what the metoo movement is about. And I am being very candid on camera right now, telling you that I am part of this. I am exactly like the women that Tolkien talked about. I saw potential in plain young men. They acted like they wanted to be my friends, or they even acted like they wanted to be my boyfriends, when really all they really wanted from me was physical and emotional energy. But I'll tell you something. It always happens. As that young man grows up and comes into his own realization and wisdom of what he's truly looking for as a soul on his own spiritual journey, that's when they call you and come back into your life to apologize for the way that they treated you. It usually happens to those with courage to go through their spiritual journey and to grow and to not be such fallen souls in a sense. So those of you who are men who are watching my video right now, let yourself be on that spiritual journey to become that courageous man that can go against his sexual instincts and put forth a higher will, a code and ethics, something that is connected to the divine, that keeps you from making these wrongful decisions that will objectify women and will harm them. And as karma works out, will come back to haunt you later on in some form. Even if the woman never says anything, even if they are just kept silent in that particular moment in time, eventually it will come forward. It will come out. This is the new world that we are trying to build together. And as a representative of the divine feminine with masculine energy infused in me in order to speak out like this, I am asking for all men to join women in this consciousness and awareness revolution. Because really that's what it is. We are moving from a fallen world into a higher one, into one that is closer to what we were always created to be in the first place. I do believe that. And I do believe that angels and higher entities such as aliens and the elves and the fairies, they represent that part of ourselves that we all can attain. It is the higher soul. And the closer you get to your higher soul, the closer you get to the divine and the connection. And that is when miracles appear in your life and things work out and you experience the love that you wish to experience and you deserve, as we all do in this great universe, loved so much by the prime creator source. So yes, I add my name to all the brave women speaking out. Me too. And men, please help us. Tell your friends that's no way to treat a woman. And if we want to see a more peaceful society and a world beyond your imagination and your dreams, it starts with you. And women, of course, we have our own goals. when we have our own type of realizations towards our higher souls. Tolkien saw equality in that. As you read in his words, it was not just the woman's fault, it was not just the men's, but both have to come together as saints. And really what saints are people that act through their higher soul on earth. And they are rewarded for doing so in heaven. That's what saints really mean. Hananle, for listening and watching this. Please spread this video because I am trying to help people understand this movement more. Because a lot of people think that this is just kind of a sham or people are coming out and just venting. No. This needs to come out in order to have a consciousness shift. That is where we are going. I feel it deep in my soul as a seer soul. I know the potential in humanity. I know what every single soul on this earth can achieve.